a moment occurred on Real America's Voice that was a little bit disturbing, but also brings up an interesting conversation about 2024. And really, while this seems like just another Marjorie Taylor Greene story because she's one of the most prominent kind of radical right-wingers, that's not what it is by itself. This is more about the moment that we're in now, where the Republican Party is going to go in one of two directions, most likely one direction, which is further towards the right-wing radical direction. And I just want to say, before we get into a clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene being asked if she would be Donald Trump's vice president if he ran, which is just crazy to think about, and horrible to think about, I do want to say, if you're a normal conservative, let's call it that, a normal, kind of old-fashioned, more moderate, Mitt Romney style conservative or whatever, a Reagan conservative, I just want to say, I'm sorry to you. I'm also not, because I feel like you enabled this a little bit by allowing these candidates to rise to prominence, but also I understand that there are people who hate the left, but also don't like the direction that the right is going right now. And so this is also unfortunate for you, but more unfortunate for us because we're the ones who are completely, have antithetical beliefs to the ones that Marjorie Taylor Greene holds. So let's go ahead and take a look at this moment and then continue the conversation around what it means. Again, Marjorie Greene getting asked if she would be Trump's vice president.
So what do you do with the fact that as people are starting to look forward to 2024, I think there's consensus, mostly among our audience anyway, and with most of the people that I've spoken with here, that Donald Trump needs to be the nominee, and anybody else is sort of a distraction at this point. At least that's what I'm hearing from people. But that I hear the words MTG mentioned a lot.
Hello.
As somebody who'd be a great running mate for Donald Trump. I just wonder what you do with that.
Well, you know what? I think if he asked me, I would definitely give that some strong consideration. I love President Trump.
So just to be clear, this means, which understandable, I'm not blaming her for giving this answer, but this means that she loves the idea and is totally someone who wants to make that happen, because I've seen a lot of politicians that have to answer the question of either, are you running for president or would you be someone's vice president? And if you're not like right before an election where that's going to happen, usually the answer is something like, well, that's a long way away. He's not even the nominee yet. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't directly say, if he asked, I would think about it, unless you really, really like the idea or think it's a possibility. And so it's kind of fascinating that she gave that answer, and scary just, again, to picture a bunch of signs that say Trump Green. Trump.
I never hide that fact. I think he's wonderful. I have a great relationship with him. I talk to him frequently. I'm so thankful for him and his family, as we all are. And I defend him all the time. I swear I would fight for that man, because he fought for us, and that's the kind of president we need back. And if he were to ask me, of course I would be honored.
Okay, so just on a Monday, let's put in your head the image of Donald Trump in the White House with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, do I think that he would actually pick her as his VP if he got the Republican nomination and was running in the general election? I don't know. I really don't, because one of the things they tried to do in 2020 with his campaign was pick someone, Mike Pence, who would get the evangelical people a little bit more excited, who came off as a little bit more of a traditional conservative, because Donald Trump wasn't that. But I feel like we're straying away from that being a concern, and even the Republican Party might realize that people know who Trump is. Whether or not he has a more traditional conservative running mate isn't going to make the difference. I don't know. And then also, what I was saying before is, I do think this represents a moment in the Republican Party's history that's going to be very much of a defining moment. Obviously, Donald Trump getting the nomination and winning is a big historical moment for the Republican Party in the direction that they went. But on top of that, if after Trump's time in the White House, after he lost, after all the election denying stuff, and now this whole movement being built around either you're someone who recognizes the election wasn't stolen or you pretend that it was stolen, which direction will the prominent Republican Party go is an interesting one. I don't think it's the biggest guess in the world, but it is a guess because we've seen polling coming out recently that a lot of the Republican Party is sick of Donald Trump. Does that mean they're sick of the lying, the unhinged nature of him and those types of things? Maybe not, because the second person is Ron DeSantis, who isn't some Boy Scout, we'll say. And so my sense is people are getting sick of Trump and his mistakes and the bad information that's coming out about him and the way that he's dealt with the election. But I don't know if they're sick of MAGA-ism, or Trump-ism. I think they're sick of Trump, but not Trumpism. So that poll that we saw that 50-something% of Republicans don't want Trump to be the nominee is good because it could prevent Trump from being in office. But I don't think it represents a travel back to reason in the Republican Party generally, even though I do think there's some percentage that is a lot more reasonable who would prefer someone more like Mitt Romney, who would still be conservative, but not so wacky. But anyways, Marjorie Taylor Greene as Trump's VP, if that ticket could win, I honestly don't know what my brain would do. Just melt out of my ears that that's the country we lived in. Who knows? And I really don't want to have to know the answer to that question.